I passed by that rusted gate every single morning, always at the exact same time, on my way to the ranch. And every morning, without exception, he was there. A golden retriever. His golden fur had turned almost entirely white, and his eyes were tired, but fixed. They were always fixed on the dirt road ahead, a road that had been empty since the great storm. For 10 long years, that dog stayed there, motionless as a living statue, waiting for something, or someone, who never returned. I thought I was just looking at an abandoned animal, but in reality, I was standing before the greatest lesson of my life. This is a story about loyalty, about regret, and about how, sometimes, life tries to teach us, and we simply pass right by. If you believe that simple stories can carry profound truths, subscribe to the channel now. Here, we don't just tell stories to entertain. We tell them to feel, to reflect, and perhaps, to change. Now, let me tell you why that dog changed everything in me. The first time I noticed the dog was almost by accident. I was late, worried about bills, broken fences, and cattle to sell. As I passed the old gate of the neighboring farm, abandoned since the storm, I saw that golden shadow standing there. He didn't bark. He didn't chase the car. He just watched me pass, and then turned his gaze back to the road. The next day, he was there again, and the next, and the next, until one day I stopped. I got out of the car and called out softly. He turned his head but didn't move. He just looked at me, as if to say, "I can't leave." It was in that moment that something inside me began to stir. As the weeks went by, that dog stopped being just part of the landscape. He became part of my routine. Every morning, before I even turned the corner, I already knew he would be there. And he was. He never ran to me. He never asked for affection. He never begged for attention. He simply remained. I started bringing water in an old bucket, then scraps of food wrapped in paper. He would wait for me to put everything on the ground, take 2 steps back, and only then approach. It was as if there were an invisible rule between us. Sometimes I would sit on the ground, leaning against the rusted gate, and talk. I talked about the ranch, the overdue bills, the loneliness I pretended not to feel. He listened in silence, his ears slightly raised, his eyes attentive, not on me, but on the road. It intrigued me. I've had many dogs in my life, but he was different. He wasn't there for me. Yet, something connected us. A bond made not of touch, but of presence, of respect, of waiting. Curiosity finally led me to ask around town about the abandoned farm. It was at the small grocery store that an old lady remarked, "Are you talking about that place past the bend? No one has set foot there since the great storm." That was the first time I heard the name, Samuel. They said he was a simple, quiet man who rarely came to town. He lived off the land, and his dog. They were always together. Where one went, the other followed. The week of the storm, everything changed. The rain gave no warning. The wind tore off roofs and swallowed entire roads. Samuel left early that morning, saying he'd be back before dark. He needed supplies. He needed to ask for help. He told the dog to stay, and he stayed. When the storm passed, they found wreckage everywhere. But Samuel was never found. While everyone else moved on, that dog remained faithful to the last request he ever heard. The hardest day was also the coldest. The wind cut through my skin, and the thin rain seemed never-ending. When I reached the gate, the dog was curled up, his thin body trembling. My heart sank. I opened the car door and spoke more firmly than ever. "Come with me." He stood up slowly. He walked toward me. My chest filled with hope. But then, he stopped. He turned his head. He looked at the road. That look wasn't one of fear. It wasn't doubt. It was faithfulness. For a few seconds, we stayed there. Me on one side, offering shelter. Him on the other, guarding a promise. Without barking, he turned around and sat back down in the exact same spot. Right then, I understood. I couldn't save him from what he had chosen to carry. That wasn't a prison. It was love. Over time, my presence began to fail. The ranch grew. Responsibilities increased. I always told myself, I'll stop there tomorrow. And tomorrow turned into a week. A week turned into a month. I still thought about him, but thinking isn't the same as being there. Sometimes I drove straight past, accelerating, avoiding looking at the gate. Maybe because, deep down, I knew I was failing him, the same way I failed so many important things in life. I prioritized money, work, the emergencies that scream, and I set aside what was waiting in silence. That was my mistake. Believing that his loyalty meant he didn't need mine. Thinking that constant presence was optional. But love doesn't survive on memories alone. The years passed in a strange way. Each time I returned to that road, something had changed, except him. The gate was more crooked, the wood more weathered, the road almost reclaimed by the weeds, and the dog, slower. His golden fur had turned white. His eyes were still attentive, but weary. Yet, every time I arrived, he was facing the same point. The same curve. The same nothingness. Sometimes I wondered if he was still waiting for Samuel, or if he was now just waiting for the habit of waiting. The world moved on, but that dog remembered for all of us. There were days I watched from a distance, afraid to face a faithfulness that never failed. Because every year that passed, he stayed there. And every year that passed, I went less. The long wait wasn't just his. It was mine too. I was waiting for courage. He was waiting to fulfill a promise. One silent morning, something was different. When I stopped the car, he didn't get up. He just turned his head slowly and looked at me. That look asked for nothing. It simply recognized me. I knelt beside him and noticed the earth had been disturbed near the gate, as if someone had dug there long ago. I brushed away the dust and found it. An old collar, cracked, worn. Attached to it was a piece of metal, nearly illegible. I cleaned it carefully until I could read. "Wait for me. I'll be back." My legs gave out. It wasn't just an old story. It was a real promise. Written. Entrusted. That dog wasn't waiting for hope. He was waiting for a word given. And in that moment, I realized something terrible. While he honored a promise for 10 years, I could barely honor my own words for a week. That night, I went back. I brought a blanket and sat beside him. The wind was cold, but it didn't seem to matter. For the first time, he didn't look at the road the whole time. He rested his head on my leg. I stayed there in silence, feeling the weight of that simple gesture. Years of waiting, and yet, still trusting. I ran my hand over his white fur and whispered that he wasn't alone. That if Samuel didn't come back, I would stay. He breathed slowly, tired, at peace. When the sun began to rise, he moved slightly. He opened his eyes. He looked at me. And then, he rested. There was no pain, no noise, just silence. And in that silence, a promise was finally fulfilled. I buried him right there, near the gate. It didn't feel right to take him anywhere else. That ground was part of his story. I planted a simple tree. Nothing grand. Just something that would grow slowly, the way his waiting had been. People from town started to ask. Some stopped. Some cried. Others just stood in silence. Today, those who pass by find shade. They find peace. And a small wooden sign, handwritten, "Here rested loyalty." The ranch was never the same. And I, even less so. That dog taught me everything. That love isn't a race. That promises matter. That waiting is also a form of courage. He waited 10 years. I spent my whole life thinking there would always be time. Today, when I make a promise, I remember him. When I think about walking away, I remember him. When the world asks me to forget, I remember him. Because some lessons don't come from words. They come from those who stay, even when everyone else is gone. Maybe you don't have a rusted gate on your road. Maybe there isn't a dog waiting every day in the same place. But if you are listening to this story, it's because at some point in your life, you also waited. Or were waited for. You waited for someone who promised to return. Or you left someone waiting too long. It hurts to realize that. It hurts to admit it. But it also heals. Because recognizing the mistake doesn't erase the past, it completely changes the future. If this story reminded you of someone, don't ignore that feeling. Maybe there is still time to keep a promise. Maybe there is still time to go back. If you want, write the name of someone who marked your life in the comments. Here, no one judges. We feel together. And if you believe simple stories can teach us deep truths, subscribe to the channel. Every week, a new story to remember what truly matters. Sometimes, the greatest proof of love is simply not leaving.